Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor. Let's start with this from Paul Barron.
Is very intriguing. One other area I want to take a look at is the faster.
It's funny watching these things. For those of us that have been here for years, we were going through all this stuff years ago. It's funny to watch everybody show up to the party.
Payments Council, this is a government entity out there. And when you go in and look in and dig into their board and the members, we have somebody else showing up. This is James Selleck, also on Ripple. So tied into faster payments. You look further into, this was the Federal Reserve document that goes into the faster payments task force participants. And I'll zoom in on that. There's Ryan Zangone. He is, of course, also with Ripple. We haven't seen a ton of companies that are in the blockchain space in here, but Ripple is there. So again, more tied into faster payments. Remember, Ripple is cornerstone of where Swift was over the past 35 years. Ripple is kind of that new potential of being able to move money around the world. Could they go down to the retail level and get into this is the question.
All right. And then he posts this poll. And when I saw it, I was like, wait, has there been some announcement I haven't seen? He says, now that XRP Ledger will be the rails of the digital euro and the ECB, what crypto will be the rails for crypto payments in America if it's not in the poll? Add yours. And everybody, of course, guesses XRP Ledger. Now, I think it's going to be XRP combined with XLM. But he states this as if it's already been decided and they already mentioned it. I think that this is where I don't think that there has been something specifically saying this is happening, period. But I've always thought it would happen.
That's where RippleNet starts to play into this.
I don't even think it's called RippleNet right now.
So essentially it's Ripple that has the plug and the potential lead on being able to participate in the digital euro. And with that being said, you have to look at the Digital Euro Association, which is also partnered with Ripple. Their statement right here was Digital Euro is delighted to announce a partnership with Ripple, supporting partner jointly working on the CBDCs and Ripple. So again, this could be interesting as we start to see this play out. If in fact they are concerned that the United States could be taking the lead on the global scale, and of course you've got Christine Lagarde and the EU looking at that. You look at what's happening on the RLUSD front, and of course you have to look at the acceleration of RLUSD. This was back in early January when it first hit, and it already had started to take and move up the ranks in terms of volume, and that may have been what started to get the attention of the EU and said, hey, we got to get moving on all this.
All right. Now, here's the article. The ECB wants to establish a blockchain-based payment system enabling financial institutions to settle transactions in central bank money. And then here's Matt Hogan talking about the demand for an XRP ETF.
Okay, one more thing before we go. We saw earlier this week that the SEC formally acknowledged Bitwise's application for a spot XRP ETF. Now, I know you can't talk about the specific application, but I'm wondering if you can talk about what you've heard in terms of demand for an XRP ETF in particular. Obviously, there was less demand for an ETH ETF than a Bitcoin one, but there is increasing adoption. So what's the scope look like for an XRP fund?
Yeah, I would say two things on that front, without talking about the Bitwise filing specifically, as you mentioned. One, I think there's substantial demand for an XRP ETF. XRP has had a sustained community for an extremely long period of time. It's an asset that trades significantly on centralized exchanges. I think people would love to find a way to hold it in a simple, low cost, easy to use ETP structure. And I will say the second piece is the SEC is much more receptive to discussions under the new administration than they were in the past. In the previous administration, the door would simply be shut. There was no way to discuss things like staking or in-kind or maybe new assets. I think, and I can tell you that has completely changed. They're much more open to dialogue. So I'm optimistic we're going to see, XRP ETFs, Solana ETFs. I think the killer app in this space will actually be an index-based ETF. I think a lot of people want to just make a generalized bet on crypto, and I'm hopeful we get that at the end of this year as well. So count me as optimistic.
All right, me too. Well, guess what? Both Matt Hogan and Paul Barron are going to be at XRP Las Vegas. How about them apples? You can still get your discounted tickets. You can still get your discounted MGM Grand hotel rooms. Go to xrplasvegas.com, or you can go here in the description of my video. You can join my YouTube group right there, and you can join the Patreon, or you could do both. Whichever you want to do. They're the same price. It's the same thing. I do extended videos, and I do I do extra content in there, and I do there's no ads over them in both groups. It's the same content in both groups. And then there's xrplasvegas.com. The market is kind of flat today. The market's been pretty boring over the last few days. This guy says the altcoin super cycle begins in February. Every cycle, February sets the stage. Biggest parabolic moves happen after this phase. Altcoins are about to send. I hope he's right. Look at this. The Ethereum Foundation is looking for a social media manager to boost its social media presence as the price of its native token struggles against competitors and sentiment drags. I said, Bill Hinman, he might be a good candidate. He wants to get into crypto and all this. We know he was a big Ethereum guy. Here's another, I call this a Bitcoin maxi. It's an exchange, but anytime you see Bitcoin and only Bitcoin in somebody's profile on X, it's a pretty good indicator that they're one of these ideologues in Bitcoin, because keep on pushing the narrative. But as usual, let me hit the refresh button to make sure this is accurate. As usual, which crypto are you purchasing in 2025? XRP crushes everything. This is how it is in every poll. Then Eleanor Terrett, Grayscale ETF. This is new. Grayscale ETF 19B4 filing is officially posted to the Federal Register. All this means is that the clock starts for the SEC to engage and either approve or deny on or before October 18th. And then there's this, Grayscale's XRP ETF 19B filing is now in the Federal Register. Starting the official SEC review, the SEC must decide by October 18th. Polymarket odds for approval are up to 81%. I think yesterday they were at like 78%, I believe. Look at VET. You're going to get so many I think you meant XRP, ETF news. You'll get tired of getting so much news. And you'll say, please, it's too much XRP ETF news. I can't take it anymore. And then you'll get more XRP ETF news. And then you'll get more XRP ETF or XRP polls. And XRP will keep winning. Sounds like a Donald Trump slogan. Grayscale crypto snapshot assets. Our weekly snapshot of 10 crypto assets by 1 week returns. Oh, look who's on top. 6.4% for 1 week, 30.3% year to date. Market cap 145.6. Look where Bitcoin is, way down at 2.1% and a 5.5% return to date. And yet all CNBC and all the crypto talking heads can talk about is Bitcoin. Coincidence? I think not. And then, see, just so you know, folks, the reason that the market is just kind of trying to figure out what to do and all this, it's all because the market, I think, knows that first we're going to get stablecoin legislation, then we're going to get crypto infrastructure legislation, but it's going to take time to get it. And it's also taking time for the Ripple lawsuit to be resolved. All these things are taking time, and the market wants everything now, like my kids do. And so that's what is going on. And so if in the short term we have pullbacks and all that, good. I'm sitting here, I'm doing it Warren Buffett style. I'm sitting here with cash on the sidelines. I'm just waiting. I dare you to dip XRP, because I've been scooping. Every time we have a dip, I've been scooping it up, and I will continue because there's more things, more positive things in front of XRP than any digital asset on the planet, because it's been held back by these crooked regulators for more than any other digital asset. Just the fact, I'm insulted by it. Just the fact that the talking heads right now, when they're talking about ETFs, they're saying things like, well, you know, it's more, there's a likelier chance that Litecoin ETF will be approved first, or maybe Solana, but XRP's still trying to resolve the lawsuit and all. It's still going on, folks. I mean, now it's being fixed, but that is a ludicrous thing. If you look at Litecoin, the dude that founded Litecoin and sold all of his Litecoin and told everybody he did, I mean, there are so many people that easily could have been wrapped up in lawsuits that weren't, that were left alone. And this idea that somehow Ripple has all these skeletons and they need to have this lawsuit resolved, to me, that's insulting. There never should have been a lawsuit. And if there was a lawsuit, they should have sued a lot of these before they ever sued Ripple. But they didn't, because Ripple was picked to be sued. It was picked to do regulatory capture on, so that all those people that were in those other things could make billions in the interim.
Promise of more crypto-friendly regulation, legislation. But it's slow to happen, of course, because Congress needs to weigh in. How are you marking us out of 10?
Well, I think we're on a 10 out of 10 right now. I think there is obviously a lot of work to do, and it takes a lot of time. I think we're looking at things in sort of two phases. You know, the first step is we need to undo the harm that happened in the last administration. And we've seen hints of this with the repeal of SAB 121. Congress is actually working on a really important bill right now, the Congressional Review Act, to undo a rulemaking that the IRS tried to apply to DeFi in the late hours. 75 companies wrote a letter on that this morning to Congress, and I think we're going to get a vote on it this week. That's really important. So it's undoing the harm, it's stopping the litigation, but then we need to go and, as Richard was saying, get a framework in place. We need stablecoin legislation, we need market structure legislation. These pieces are harder because they require a lot of work, but we're really optimistic that Congress and the White House are aligned on this, and that this is the year to get these items done.
How much patience do you think ultimately those that have plowed in to cryptocurrencies as an asset of choice have for the actual legislative process here? Because it feels as though many were like, oh, they're just forming a task force more broadly. They're not actually bringing regulations here and now.
Yeah, well, I think that the task force, the presidential working group that you spoke about, is actually incredibly important. The SEC also has their crypto task force. These things don't happen overnight. You want to get the regulatory framework right, and it requires a lot of discussion and debate. I mean, the good news is we're not starting at zero. Congress did a lot of work this past year to really lay the groundwork and move the ball forward. But, like any draft legislation, there are...
By the way, right now I'm looking at CNBC, and there's breaking news that says Coinbase SEC will drop litigation.
Issues here or there that still need to be worked out. And so, one of the things we're doing at the Blockchain Association within our working groups is really to get people together to focus in on the specific issues and the details so we can bring smart, thoughtful approaches to Congress. Because I think, what everybody in the industry wants is a pro-competition framework that also protects consumers. And so we're on the same page about the goals. It's working through the details that takes time. But, I think there was a press conference last week where David Sachs and the chair of the committees stood up and said they want to get this done in the first 100 days. I think that's pretty ambitious, but I think they're going to try. I think they're moving very, very quickly on Capitol Hill, and that we're going to see a lot of progress.
Kristen, you mentioned the consumer. There's still plenty of people out there who are skeptical about the safety of their assets in some of these instruments. What policies or measures are you in favor of that would protect consumers?
Yeah, well, I think, listen, we need to make sure that whenever there's an intermediary involved in crypto, they need to have appropriate regulations, right? If you're handing your crypto assets over to someone else, you want to know that they're safe, that they're not going to be taken away or used for harm. So we need to put those types of frameworks into place, and I think it's fairly easy to do. I think it's known. I think some of the more complex topics are, figuring out when some...
Okay, bottom line is it's going to take time. Now, We got a good one for you. DAIXRP.com. You can go below this video. There's a join button. If you want to join my group through YouTube, you can do that. It's all the same. You'll get extra video content like you're going to get today, and there's no commercials or any of that. You can go to DAIXRP.com if you want to join through the Patreon. Here's what we're going to talk about. I'm telling you, my gut is right 99.9% of the time. Now, whether we'll find out all the details of it, that's the question. But all these things you're seeing Trump do right now, all these where they're dismantling the deep state, look at what was done to crypto. They went after anybody that tried to do anything in America, but they didn't go after Tether. They didn't go after FTX. They only went after FTX once the fraud was exposed. Gary Gensler not only did he not go after him, but he was meeting with them. And if you remember back then, there were videos being put out. One of them was by BitBoy, where he said he had found out through his sources what had happened. And he said that FTX was trying to work with the government to try to harness crypto so that only the government controlled it, and FTX and Sam Bankman-Fried were working with the government to do that. Remember, they were working at the White House, Congress, CFTC, SEC. All of that was going on. They never went after these offshore things. They left them alone. And the question is why? And I have my theories about why. And I really hope that there's a lot of things going on that I'm going to go over, and I can show you the coincidences and ties. I got theories on that, and I've also got another theory on XRP and XLM we'll talk about that I've talked about for years. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, tell your friends and family. Let's get it.